doing that because I was gonna start by telling you a story, and this is a true story, and let's see. Okay, so I'll start with the story.
There we go.
You got it? Okay, yeah, because I wanted to know when you decided to, or why you decided to become a teacher. And just raise your hand, how many of you decided to become a teacher because there was a teacher you had who really inspired you to do that? Raise your hand if that's the case. Okay, what about because of a family member's urging? Somebody said, you are really good, you'd be a really good teacher. Oh, okay. And what about because you wanted to help others? Okay. And is there another reason that somebody decided that I had not even thought about to put up there? Anybody have another reason? Oh, yes, go ahead. Mhm. Oh, okay, fantastic. And let me ask something else. How many of you are wanting to teach at the elementary level, like K through 5? Okay, anybody middle school, 6 through 8? You are with me.
Oh, right
middle
here to
school
the left,
kids.
to the left.
Oh,
your left
oh,
side.
well, I got it.
I don't. Education.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, anybody who's even considering working with middle school students, yeah. Anybody high school? Oh, okay, all right. So I think this story that I'm going to share with you will be very appropriate. It's something that happened at a dinner party in Germany back in the 1930s when there was a Swiss aerodynamic scientist at this party, and he started thinking about things that fly since he's an aerodynamic scientist. And is it working?
Oh, sure.
Oh, okay. Well, then, yeah, because
Not the clicker, but the
oh, okay.
computer.
Okay. Well, I will.
For some reason.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So we were talking. Okay, so we were talking about and it doesn't matter if I push this, yeah. Okay, yeah, we talked about what metacognition is, and I know it works because I wrote the books on it. And the one that you have access to is teach students how to learn. And the one for students is teach yourself how to learn. And I would really urge you to get the teach yourself how to learn because it's going to be talking about all the strategies that we're going to talk about today and some additional ones in addition. So you can think about today is really kind of the trailer for it. Okay, so back to the story. So there was this Swiss aerodynamic scientist who was at a party and he started thinking about things that fly since he's an aerodynamic scientist. And so he started thinking about bumblebees. And he was wondering, why should bumblebees be able to fly? They have this huge body and relatively short wings. They don't have a long, sleek body like a wasp with long wings. And if you look at them again from this vantage point, the pointer is working, so I can use it. Yeah, you said they have this huge body and these little bitty wings. And so he started doing some calculations on his napkin, looking at the ratio of bumblebee wings to the body. And the calculations kept saying the same things. Bumblebees should not be able to get off the ground. But the good news is bumblebees do not know any aerodynamic science. And so they don't know they're not supposed to fly. And so they just keep right on flying. And I like to tell that story to students, and I'm going to ask you to think back all the way back to middle school. And if you have ever encountered this, raise your hand. Did you ever encounter someone where you told them that you were going to do something and they looked at you like, nah, you're not going to be able to do that? Ever happened to anybody? Okay, yeah, it's happened to most of us, and it will happen to some of your students. And so you have to know and you have to teach your students not to pay any attention to those people because they have no idea what you're capable of. And there's so many kids, especially elementary school kids, who are told like from day one, well, I don't think you're very bright. And what that does is it just kind of dampens their spirit. And so you're going to have to instill in them that people are going to tell them this, but you're going to give them things that they need to do so that they can soar. They don't have to listen to this at all. But I do want you to know that as you climb this academic ladder, you're going to encounter some of those people, possibly even here at LSU, who, let's say you flunked the first test, which happens to so many people. And at the Center for Academic Success, how many have used any of the services from the center, the CAS? Oh, okay, great, yeah. Okay, yes. And so supplemental instruction, anybody use that? SI tutoring? Okay, or academic coaching? Okay, yeah, so they have great services over there. And you may not have known this, and Dr. Petrie, you might not have known this, but the CAS at LSU is the only learning center in the world who has been designated a learning center of excellence 3 times in a row. So we are 3 Peters, yes. And so you will be encountering experts when you're over there. But so many times people they fail or get a D on the first test and still end up with an A because because whether or not you do well on the first test has nothing to do with how smart you are. It only has to do with the strategies that you're using, and they'll give you additional strategies. And so let me ask this. I'm assuming that everybody here has had at least one test or quiz so far. If you got any score that was a little bit lower than you expected or that you wanted, please raise your hand. Ah, okay, yes, the same thing, truthfully. So the strategies we're going to talk about, you start implementing those are going to be helpful. And so that's an example of, you didn't expect to get the low score. Were you kind of surprised when you saw what it was? Yeah, and so based on that, some teachers will assume, oh, well, they didn't do well on this, so they're probably not going to do well on the course, but that's a miscalculation, so you don't have to listen to them. And so metacognition really is, as was said earlier, your ability to think about your own thinking. And let me say this, I'm reminded to say this, I see you taking notes. That is absolutely wonderful. You can feel free to take pictures of the slides if you want to, but I'm going to give Dr. Petrie this whole presentation, so it'll be available to you. So feel free to take notes on anything or take pictures, but I don't think you have to get everything down because you'll have the PowerPoint for later on. It's your ability to be consciously aware that you are a problem solver. When things come up that you might not know the answer to, you can take steps to figure out how to do things. You don't have to figure that you got to ask somebody else. It's your ability to monitor your mental processing and then plan what you're going to do different to be more effective and to make sure that you do better the next time. Now, let me ask you this. For any test that you didn't do as well as you wanted to, what kind of plan did anybody come up with to make sure that you do better on the next test than you did on the first test? Anybody share that with me? Okay, yes.
Take it after class rather than 2 days later.
Perfect. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. And that's consistent with the study cycle that I'm going to show you in just a little bit. Yeah. And so that's what metacognition is. It's figuring out, okay, I didn't do as well this time. What can I change and do next time that's going to make it much more likely that I'm going to do much better next time. So perfect. Yeah. And it's your ability to know what you don't know and also to accurately judge your level of learning. And I put that in bold because that is the reason that so many students don't do as well on the first test or quiz. Because when you were in high school, you studied at a certain level and you were very successful. But here, things are at a much higher level. And that actually has to do with something called Bloom's taxonomy. How many people here have ever heard of Bloom's taxonomy? Okay, you read more than the first chapter, did you?
I actually learned about it in high school.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay. And so we're going to talk about that because that's very, very important because so many students study, and they get the test and they don't do well. And it's not because they haven't put in enough time, but they're just studying at a lower level than they need to be studying at. So that's what metacognition is. And most people who come to the university, and when I was a first year student, right after the stone was rolled away, I had not developed these skills either because it just wasn't necessary before. And so one of the things that I want to do to help you really understand exactly what the difference is between, let's say, your performance before and the performance you're capable of. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, and I want you to take about 10 seconds to get your own answer. And then I want you to just turn to a partner in groups of 3, 2 or 3, discuss it with them. So I'll give you 10 seconds to come up with your own answer and then turn and talk with 2 or 3 other folks. And I'll give you about a couple of minutes to do that. And then we'll come back as a group and see what we think about these 2 questions. So the first one is, what's the difference between studying and learning? And for the second one, I'm going to give you 2 scenarios and ask if you would work harder for one of these than the other. And the first scenario, I come to you as the professor and I say, look, we're going to have the next test in this class next week, and you didn't do well at all on the first one. So you have to make an A on this next test, or you're not going to do well in this class. That's the first scenario. And the second scenario, and I want to know if you would work harder for one than the other, I come to you and I say, look, we're going to have the next test in this class next week, and I wish I had done before what everybody was asking me to do before the first test, but I didn't do it. Everybody kept asking me, can we have a review session? Are you gonna give us a review session? And I said, no, this is LSU University, not high school. We don't do review sessions here. But the class did horribly. The average was 65. So I really wish I'd done a review session, but I didn't. But because the next test is coming up, I'm gonna do a review session before this upcoming test. And you are gonna teach that review session. I'm gonna have you come up to the front of the class and you are gonna explain all of the important concepts, paying particular attention to the more difficult concepts to make sure everybody is prepared for the test the next day. Would you work harder for A or B? So again, take 10 seconds to get your own answer and then just turn to a partner in groups of 2 or 3, discuss it, and we'll come back in a couple of minutes and see what we have come up with as a group. So start thinking and talking now. Okay, about 30 more seconds, please. You can keep talking about number 3 stuff. Unless you're finished. You got some more questions? Okay, all right, well, let's see what we came up with. Let's start with the first one. And the way I like to do this is, if you're willing to share with the group, I want you to raise your hand and I'm gonna identify at least 3 people. I'll give you a number and you have to remember your numbers. I won't remember it. And then I'm gonna identify all 3 people who are gonna speak before the first one speaks. And then we'll just go 1, 2, 3. So who's willing to share with the group how you answered, what's the difference between studying and learning? Please raise your hand if you're willing to share that with your group. Here's my number 1. Oh, you were just about to be number 2. Okay, and I know about wait time, so we have to have 3. I gotta have at least 3. Okay, great, great, great. Here's my number 2, and there's my number 3. Wonderful. So where's my number 1? Okay, yes, go ahead.
Is conversation and history, and one thing is like introduce the topic, getting new knowledge, and trying to understand and comprehend those things.
Interesting. Okay, and we're just gonna do 1 at a time. So thank you. Where's my number 2? Yes, what did you guys say?
For studying, I think you said that we retain more information by studying and book. Learning, you're like, they give you the information, but I think when you study, you have more of an understanding than you would.
Got you. Okay, great. And number 3?
In studying, going over that information in different times.
Yeah, that is fascinating. Anybody thought of any different distinctions between them? No, okay, that's fascinating to me because your answers were pretty consistent that learning is, something, once you learn something, you don't really retain it until you go over and study it, and that's the way to retain it. And actually, most people think of it as the opposite. Most student groups and faculty groups, they'll say that studying is just memorizing information for a test or a quiz. But learning is when you know that information, you have it for long term. And there, as I said, there are no right or wrong answers, but based on what you said, and a lot of people have been telling me this lately, so now I've come up with another category. I think there's studying, there's learning, and there's learning about. And when you are introduced to something, I'm going to say in class, or when somebody tells you something the first time, you're really learning about it, which is why, as you said, you don't really retain that information until you take the time to study. And once you study it, then you can make it long-term and you can retain that. Absolutely. And so, yeah, that's really, really interesting. But I found, because I also thought when I was in undergrad school that I was learning things in class, and I just needed to go and study them. But when I thought that I was learning them in class, when do you think I started studying? Exactly the night before the test, because I figured I already learned it, I just need to study it. Because I don't want to start studying too soon, because if I started studying too soon, what would happen? Exactly, I thought I'd forget it. And it didn't dawn on me that, well, if you could forget it that easily, that means that you really haven't learned it. And so I want you to think of when you're hearing something in class, you're really learning about that. But I think, yeah, somebody already said that you really have to go over that information. Yeah, biology, you were talking about biology class. You really have to go over that information immediately. So you started going from short-term memory, which it goes into when you hear it in class, into long-term memory, which is going to allow you to retain it. Okay, and so for the second one, would you work, you can just yell this out in unison, would you work harder for A or B? Okay, and most people say that, so why would you work harder for B? Okay, yes.
We talked about how we felt sure, or not the pressure, but the idea that in class success is based on what you know about the material. It makes you more motivated to like carry other people than just yourself.
Yeah, now this is fascinating. I get typically three common answers, and this is the first time I've ever gotten that answer first. But you're going to be teachers, so you are empathetic. You care about whether everybody learns. So absolutely. Anybody think of another reason? Oh, yes.
We had said like, if you're able to teach the class the material, then come test time, you can take it. And then when the final happens, you'll still memorize it versus cramming the night before and forgetting.
Exactly. Yeah, because if you're not well enough to teach it, then you've really learned it and you're going to retain that. Absolutely. And there's one other common answer I get. Anybody think of another answer that's different from the two we've just heard? Okay, a lot of times people say, I don't want to look stupid in front of the class. And so, so you guys are talking about that. Yeah, and then sometimes they'll say, well, I gotta really, really know it if I have to teach it. So let me ask, if we take the difference between studying as learning as studying is kind of memorizing information for a test or a quiz, but learning is you know it well enough to teach it. Up to this point in time, do you think you've been mostly in study mode or in learn mode, would you say? Yeah, like kids, all students all over the world in study mode, as I was too. And for the second one, have you up to this point been preparing to try to make A's on tests and quizzes, or have you been preparing to be able to teach the material, A or B? A, yeah, and I love it when everybody's doing everything wrong, because that means that when you start doing something different, then you're gonna see a big improvement. And this is a young lady who was a physics student, and I met her when she was about to drop out of physics. She wanted to become a medical physicist, 4.0 GPA in high school, but she made a 54, and that's when she wanted to drop out. And she was just memorizing formulas and using Cramster. And now people don't even use that. Everybody uses AI. I was talking to a chemistry class last week, and we noticed that more than half the class did the homework the night before, and they did it in 10 to 12 minutes, and they got 100%. How do you think they did that? Chat GPT, right? And so, you'll hear the solution because I'm going to have you hear her in her own voice, if we can get this to play. Let's see. Oh. Okay, and we'll stop it there. But yeah, so I wanted you to hear, oh, thank you, Dana. Okay, I wanted you to hear in her own voice. So what did you hear she did differently? What was one of the things she did? different? Exactly, doing the homework as if she was gonna teach it. And so if you start using that strategy, you'll see it makes a huge difference. And that's really the main thing, and she was really focused in on it. And I see the next speakers here, so I'm gonna kind of rush through these. But I wanted you to see why I am so confident that students could, hello, that students, I tell students all the time, I don't care if you made a 45 on the first test. I know you can make 90 or higher on the next test because your 45 had nothing to do with how smart you are. It only had to do with the strategies. Oh, okay. And you can teach different strategies. And so this is a little exercise that's going to show you how that happens. So on the next slide, you'll see all these numbers all jumbled up. And I'm going to give you 15 seconds to first locate the number 1, and then sequentially find as many as you can find. So go from the 1 to the 2 to the 3. And then 15 seconds are up, I'm going to stop it. I just want you to use your fingers and tell me what the last number was you saw when you were finding them in sequential order. So let's start finding the numbers now. And stop. Okay, now you guys were actually at a disadvantage because the image was blocking. Yeah. Okay, well, okay, no, well, we'll leave it there now, but did anybody have trouble finding the number 1? Yeah, because it was up there. Okay, yeah, and so how many, did you eventually find it and you found some numbers? So what was the last number you saw? Just raise your fingers. Okay, 5, 4, 9, 7, 2. Oh, okay, so you got as many as most groups who actually see the number 1. But now that we know where it is, it's under the 45 and above the 49. And so we didn't get very far. So I want you to see this vertical line, this horizontal line, and now, okay, I'm sorry, vertical, horizontal, and the position of the number 1. And so I'm going to give you another 15 seconds to start back with number 1 and see how far you get this time. And when 15 seconds are up, you can just yell out the last number you saw because you won't have enough fingers to hold the fingers up. So let's start finding the numbers now. And stop. Okay, so what was the last number you saw this time? 16, 12. Okay, did most people get about half? I mean, about twice the number that they got the last time or more maybe? Okay, so that's proof positive that you could have gotten a 45 on the first test and 90 on the next test, because this little exercise shows we're not any smarter people in the room now than we were before, but there were some major differences between the first and second attempt. What was one of the differences? Okay, we knew how they were arranged exactly. And what was another difference? Okay, we knew how they were arranged. They were going in clockwise order. But there was another major difference. Okay, we knew where number 1 was, absolutely. We knew where to start. And also because we knew that it was in quadrants, we could look at a smaller section. And so, and also we'd seen it before. And so the idea is that we want students to, and we want you to know what an overall structure of the material is going to be. How does chapter 1 relate to chapter 7, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm gonna be finished in about 5 minutes, I promise. Yeah, and so those are some of the things to pay attention to. And you've got to be actively engaged in learning. So when you sit in lecture, make sure that you have done some previewing and you can actively engage with the instructor. Metacognition is really important. Always be thinking about how can I be more efficient in what I'm doing? And then Bloom's taxonomy, which is in the books. I'll just show you the image now. But it just goes from remembering to understanding to applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Straight memorization to all the way up here where you can come up with your own ideas, your own ways of doing things. And let me just ask, if you went back to high school, if I asked you what level typically did you have to operate to make A's and B's in high school, Hold up your fingers and let me know what level you think that was. Okay, I'm seeing lots of ones, twos, some threes. Yeah, that's typically the case with most students from around the country. But now that you've been here at LSU and you've had some tests and quizzes, what do you think the lowest level is that you've got to be here to learn to the extent that you're gonna be making A's and B's in your classes? What do you think? Okay, I'm seeing some fives, some fours. Anybody have any projects you have to do at the end of the year, any term? Okay, if you got some projects to do, what level is that? That's six, yeah, that's creating. And so that's another reason that people don't do as well in college is because they've been at remembering and understanding, and now all of a sudden they've got to be at creating. And that's where this study cycle comes in. How many people have never seen the study cycle? Oh, okay, yeah, this is really, really crucial. Just preview the material before you go to class, review right after, which is what Caitlin is gonna start doing. And then the focus study sessions actually give you a structured way to do the studying. And so if you implement that it was starting today, actually, I'm gonna ask you to implement that. You'll see a big difference. This is a young lady who used it. She got A+ on a 3 out of 4 for finals, and mindset, just your attitude about your intelligence. And you'll see all this in the book. I told you, this is just the trailer. 2 different attitudes about mindset, whether some people think it's fixed, it doesn't change. Other people think that you can grow your intelligence with your actions. And we know that that's much closer to the truth. And this little diagram shows that if you have a fixed mindset, then you react negatively to a lot of situations. If you have a growth mindset, you react positively, and these people improve and these people don't. What mindset about intelligence do you think most students have, fixed or growth? Fixed, yeah, because we socialize kids into having a fixed intelligence. But we know from the research that in neuroplasticity, neurogenesis, that growth mindsets, you can improve your intelligence. And so, what mindset about student intelligence do you think most faculty have, fixed or growth? No right or wrong answer, just what you think. Okay, you'll read and it's mixed. Some have fixed, some have growth, but a lot of them have a fixed mindset. And there's studies that show that the student success depends on the mindset of the faculty member. And what they found was that students who were in the classroom of a professor with a growth mindset did better than the ones who were there with a fixed mindset. And it's you as a teacher who's going to be able to change mindsets. When you have students who think, oh, I've never been good at math, I'm not good at writing, then you can let them know, well, you're not good at it yet, but because of what we're going to do in this class, you will be great at it when we finish. This is a book for teachers, this is a book for students, and in the last minute, I want to go back to that story at the beginning and tell you why bumblebees can fly. Well, remember, this was back in the 1930s when this aerodynamic scientist was doing his calculations, and aerodynamic science was in its infancy. And so he was looking at bumblebee wings the way he would look at airplane wings, looking at the ratio of what would be necessary for the wing size to the body size. And he was making the assumption based on that airplane wings and bumblebee wings were very similar, but they're very different. Bumblebee wings, well, we'll start with airplane wings, are smooth and flat, and they don't move. Where bumblebee wings have lots of bumps and zigs and zags, and they are constantly flapping. And it's this constant flapping that gives bumblebees enough lift to stay aloft. So the moral of the story is, whenever you see a bumblebee, and you can teach your students that whenever they see a bumblebee, let it remind them that if anybody says that they're not going to be successful, tell them, check your assumptions. I am a student and I have metacognitive learning strategies and I can excel at anything I set my mind to. And after you've told them that, drop the mic, walk away and leave them in your metacognitive dust. So thank you guys very, very much.